Welcome to the How-To training video for the JATAC After Action Report, or AAR. This short video will explain the details of how to properly fill out and submit the After Action Report upon course completion. Here we go. You've just received an email from the scheduling office with your new After Action Report template attached. The attachment is an Adobe PDF file. The file can be opened by double-clicking on the attachment. You can also save the file to your desktop or any file folder on your computer, and then just open the file directly from within Adobe Acrobat. Either way works. Once the file's been opened, you'll find that the After Action Report has been pre-populated with key information by the course scheduler. Review that data to ensure that all the information entered is accurate. For example, the scheduled start date may have changed. You can update this by selecting the small calendar icon next to the date block and select the appropriate date to reflect that change. Directly below your name as team leader is the area where you'll fill in the names of your training team. You can either select from the pre-populated drop-down menus or just type in the name of the individual if the instructor you're looking for isn't on the list. Use the last name, first name format. The middle name or initial is not required. Also, don't use any punctuation when typing in free text. Now onto the class roster. You have a couple of choices on how to fill this data in. First choice, you can print out a blank class roster form on the first day of training, circulate it around the class, and just have the students manually fill in the roster information. You'll find a copy of the blank roster by selecting the File Attachment paperclip icon in the lower left of your screen. Just select the file and then select Open Attachment. You can now print the blank sheet and distribute it to the class. You'd then transcribe the information into the Class Roster section of the After Action Report PDF file. Or your second choice is to set up a laptop in the back of the room and have the students fill in the data directly on the PDF form during their breaks. Either way, the data should be entered on the first day of the course and reviewed by the team leader for accuracy. Now, let's go through each section of the class roster. We'll use Sergeant First Class Stephen Smith for this demonstration. Last name, first name, the last four numbers of the Social Security number. Next is the service the student is a member of. In this case, Army. The student's rank. In this case, we'll select Sergeant First Class and their NEC, MOS, or designator as applicable to the specific service. Here we'll enter 89 Delta, which corresponds to an explosive ordnance disposal specialist. The next entry is for EOD qualification level. The EOD level should only be filled out for EOD qualified personnel. As you can see, you have basic, senior, and master EOD technician qualification levels to select from. For this example, Sergeant First Class Smith is a Master EOD Technician, so we'll select that. If the student is not EOD qualified, just leave the default setting of Select. Now enter the time in service in years and months. The next entry specifies the unit that the student is attached to. Ensure that the student provides the full unit designation, being as specific as possible. 760th OD Company is preferable to 760th Company. For our example, we'll enter 760th ODCO EOD. The last deployed date corresponds to the date the student returned to his or her permanent duty station or mobilization center from the last deployment. Combat experience refers to the operation or operations the student has deployed in support of. Choices include OIF, OEF, or both, and there's also an Other selection. Currently, there's not an option to provide additional information if Other is selected. The number of tours entry refers to the total number of operational deployments the student has completed in support of OIF, OEF, or other named operations. And the last block is the student type. For those students completing training in preparation for duties as an instructor or trainer, you would select Trainer. Okay, so that's it for the student roster. Ensure the number of students entered on the student roster corresponds with the actual number of students scheduled to complete the course. prior to submitting the after-action report. Next, we'll cover the Lessons Learned page. Here you'll have room to enter information for 4 separate instructor observations, including an area to provide recommendations that address specific observations. Information entered in the Observations and Recommendations blocks cannot exceed 250 words. The Safety Violation Radio button allows you to report a safety violation if one occurred during the conduct of training. If so, simply select Yes or No and provide amplifying remarks in the explanation block. Again, you are limited to 250 words in that block. And lastly comes the Summary section. This is the portion of the after-action report where team leaders and instructors have the opportunity to enter any additional information relative to the conduct of the course that is not covered in any of the preceding sections. Now for the Attachment page. We highly recommend that you create a folder on your computer where you can have all of these files at the ready before you attempt to attach them. In this example, the course we'll be using is EOD Tactical Training, course number JATAC EODTT-10-XX. Make sure that all your pictures have been reduced to the proper size, file type, and are properly named. Also, make sure that all of the grade sheets have been graded and scanned and that all the data has been exported to Microsoft Excel. To attach a file, you simply press the gray button, browse your computer, and select the proper file. Ensure that you attach all of the required files. These fields should be full when you're done. Now we'll get to the student graduation certificates. You start by filling in the total hours block, and then you select Update Certificates. You'll get a warning window stating that the certificates have been updated. Select OK. This will populate each certificate with data from the student roster and AAR. You can see that the first certificate is ready to be printed and signed by the lead instructor. Once you review the certificates, you can print them by selecting the Print button from the main menu. Then select Pages from the menu and type in the certificate pages to print out. The certificates start at page 7 and continue based on the number of students that attended the course. So if you have 20 students, you would enter 27 for the last page. For this demonstration, we won't be printing the certificates, so we'll hit Cancel here so we can move on. Once the certificates are printed and you have proofread your AAR for accuracy, it's time to submit the form. The Submit button is located on page 6, opposite of the Update Certificates button. Once you select Submit, you'll see a Download Status screen. The time to transmit the completed AAR varies depending on file size. You'll receive a thank you screen indicating that the file has been successfully uploaded. Once the thank you screen is displayed, the AAR submission process is complete. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, contact Jeff Caskey in JATAC Operations at 909-831-8528.